Captain James Reed stared at the star map on the main screen of Epsilon 9 station. His eyes were tired after hours of searching for patterns. The bright dots of stars and systems glowed against the black background, but one particular signal kept drawing his attention. It wasn't supposed to be there. "Sir, I've got those old records you asked for," said Marcus Taylor, walking into the command center with a data tablet. The young intelligence officer looked nervous. Reed nodded. "Show me." Taylor handed over the tablet. On it were images of a massive battleship, over 1 kilometer long with heavy gun placements, and a distinctive arrowhead shape. The ship's name was clearly visible on its hull. Nemesis. "The Nemesis," Reed said quietly. "I grew up hearing stories about it. Everyone thought it was just propaganda. A myth we made up to scare the Krellock." Taylor shook his head. "Not a myth, sir. It was real. The most powerful ship humans ever built. But according to every official record, it was destroyed in the final battle of the Obsidian War, 50 years ago." Reed scrolled through the images. "So why am I looking at recent sensor readings that match its energy signature?" "That's the thing, sir. It shouldn't be possible." Taylor pointed to a blinking red dot on the star map. "But that signal matches the Nemesis drive pattern exactly. It's been moving through the outer systems for 3 weeks now." Reed zoomed in on the signal's path. "It's heading straight for Krellock space." "Yes, sir. If that really is the Nemesis, and it crosses into Krellock territory, we could have another war on our hands." Reed finished the thought. The peace with the Krellock Empire had lasted 50 years, but it remained fragile. The alien species had never fully accepted their failure to conquer human space. If they believed humans were sending a legendary warship toward their territory, they might strike first. Reed stood up. "Who else knows about this?" "Just Admiral Wilson. She's the one who ordered me to bring this to you." Taylor lowered his voice. "She wants this handled quietly. If word gets out that the Nemesis might still exist, there will be panic. Many people lost family in the Obsidian War." Reed remembered his own grandfather's stories about the war. The Krellock had attacked without warning, targeting civilian colonies with horrible biological weapons before the military could respond. Millions died painful deaths before the war ended. "What are my orders?" Reed asked. "Assemble a small team. Take the fast Corvette Swift. Find that signal and determine if it really is the Nemesis. If it is..." Taylor paused. "You're to make contact and prevent it from entering Krellock space by any means necessary." Reed raised an eyebrow. "Any means." "Those are the Admiral's words, sir. The peace must be protected." After Taylor left, Reed began making calls. He needed a small team of specialists for this mission. People he could trust with a secret this big. 3 days later, Reed stood in the hangar bay of Epsilon 9, watching his chosen team board the Swift. The Corvette was small but fast, perfect for catching up to the mysterious signal. Engineer Diane Powell was first to arrive, carrying a heavy bag of tools. She was in her 50s, one of the few people left who understood the old warship technology from the Obsidian War era. "Captain," she greeted him. "I brought everything I could think of that might help us interface with old systems. If that ship really is the Nemesis, its technology will be ancient by our standards." "Good thinking," Reed said. "The rest of the team is inside." Communications expert John Miller was already at his station when Reed boarded. The quiet man had an almost supernatural ability to decode and understand any transmission. "Miller, any luck picking up communications from our target?" Miller shook his head. "Nothing, sir. If it's broadcasting, it's using codes or frequencies we no longer monitor." Security Chief Alex Thompson checked weapons in the armory. The ex-Marine had fought in smaller conflicts with Krellock border forces. His face was serious as he looked up at Reed. "Sir, if that ship is hostile, we won't stand a chance against it. Not in this little Corvette." "Let's hope it's not hostile then," Reed replied. "Our job is to find it and talk to it, not fight it." Navigator Owen Davis sat at the pilot's station, plotting their course. He knew the border territories better than anyone, having mapped many of them himself. "Course laid in, Captain," Davis reported. "Based on its last known position and speed, we should intercept in about 4 days, assuming it maintains its current course." Reed took his seat in the command chair. "Then let's not waste any time. Launch when ready." The Swift traveled quickly through space, jumping from system to system as it followed the mysterious signal. Each jump brought them closer to Krellock space, and closer to potential war if they failed. On the 4th day, Davis called out from his station. "Captain, I'm picking up debris ahead. Looks like we've found the Gamma sector." Reed joined him at the view screen. The neutral zone. The Gamma sector was a graveyard of ships destroyed during the Obsidian War. Neither humans nor Krellock claimed it. The debris field stretched for millions of kilometers, a perfect hiding place. "The signal is coming from within the field," Miller reported. "It's stronger now." Reed ordered, "Take us in." Slowly, the Swift moved carefully between massive pieces of destroyed ships. Some were human designs, others Krellock. All were silent reminders of the war's cost. Then they saw it. Against the backdrop of stars and debris, a massive shape emerged. Its hull was scarred with old battle damage, but there was no mistaking its distinctive form. The arrowhead-shaped bow, the heavy weapon mounts, and on its side, still visible despite the damage. "Nemesis. It's real," Powell whispered, staring at the view screen. "The legend is real." Reed studied the massive battleship. It had to be over 1 kilometer long, 20 times the size of their Corvette. But something was different. Strange modifications covered parts of its hull, technology that didn't look human or Krellock. "Sir," Miller called out, "we're receiving a transmission from the Nemesis. It's an old authentication code, hasn't been used in 40 years. "Put it through," Reed ordered. A voice crackled over the speakers, old and tired but firm. "Unidentified vessel. This is Terran battleship Nemesis. You are approaching restricted space. Identify yourself immediately." Reed exchanged looks with his crew. After 50 years, the legendary ship was not only real, it was active and manned. "This is Captain James Reed of the Terran Defense Fleet Corvette Swift. We're here under orders to make contact with you." There was a long pause before the voice responded. "Captain Reed, prepare to dock. Bay 4 is open for your vessel. The Admiral wishes to speak with you." As the Swift approached the massive battleship, Reed couldn't shake the feeling that they were about to uncover something that would change everything they thought they knew about the end of the Obsidian War. The Nemesis wasn't just a legend or a myth. It was real, and it had returned with purpose. The small Corvette Swift approached the massive battleship with caution. Captain Reed watched through the view screen as they neared docking Bay 4. The Nemesis was even more impressive up close, its hull marked with countless battle scars that told stories of past conflicts. "Look at those modifications," Engineer Powell said, pointing at strange metal structures attached to the battleship's hull. "Those aren't human designs, and they're definitely not Krellock either." Security Chief Thompson checked his weapon. Could be a trap. The ship might have been captured and repurposed. "Stay alert, but no weapons unless I give the order," Reed commanded. "We're here to make contact, not start a fight." The Swift entered the enormous docking bay and landed gently on the deck. Through the view screen, Reed could see that the bay was mostly empty except for a few small maintenance robots moving about. No welcoming party waited for them. "Atmosphere reads as safe," Miller reported from his station. "Gravity and temperature normal." Reed nodded. "Powell, Thompson, you're with me. Miller and Davis, stay with the ship and be ready for a quick departure if needed." The three of them put on light armor, standard procedure for boarding an unknown vessel, and stepped through the airlock. The docking bay was eerily quiet. Their footsteps echoed across the vast space. The air smelled stale but breathable. Emergency lights provided dim illumination, giving everything a shadowy, haunted appearance. This ship was built to carry a crew of 1,500, Powell said quietly. "But I'm not seeing signs of more than a handful of people." A door at the far end of the bay slid open. A mechanical voice spoke through overhead speakers. "Captain Reed, please proceed to the command deck. Follow the lighted path." Blue lights began to glow along the floor, forming a trail leading toward the door. "Could be automated," Thompson suggested, hand resting on his weapon. Reed led the way, following the blue lights. They walked through long corridors that should have been bustling with crew members, but now stood empty. Some sections showed signs of damage, scorch marks on walls, patched hull breaches, and makeshift repairs. "This damage is old," Powell observed, running her hand along a repaired section. "From the Obsidian War, probably. But someone's been maintaining the ship all this time." After walking for nearly 10 minutes and riding 2 separate elevators, they'd reached the command deck. The doors slid open to reveal a large, circular room filled with control stations and view screens. Unlike the rest of the ship, this area was well lit and fully functional. Most surprising of all, it wasn't empty. 12 elderly humans sat or stood at various stations. They all turned to look at the newcomers. Each person wore a simple uniform with old Terran Defense Fleet insignia, though the uniforms had been modified and repaired many times over the years. An old man with white hair and a neatly trimmed beard rose from the central command chair. Despite his age, he stood straight and proud. His eyes were clear and sharp as he assessed the visitors. "Captain James Reed," the man said in a voice that matched the one from the earlier transmission. "I am Admiral Thomas Walker. Welcome aboard the Nemesis." Reed saluted automatically, surprising himself. Walker's rank and bearing commanded respect despite the unusual circumstances. "Admiral Walker," Reed replied, "according to all official records, you and this ship were destroyed 50 years ago." Walker's mouth twitched into a slight smile. "Records can be wrong, Captain, or deliberately falsified." Powell stepped forward, unable to contain her curiosity. "Sir, how has this ship remained operational for 50 years without support?" "The power requirements alone should have." "All in good time, Engineer," Walker interrupted, noticing her technical insignia. "First, tell me why you're here. Why now, after all these years, has the Terran Defense Fleet decided to look for us?" Reed explained about the energy signature they had detected and the ship's course toward Krellock space. As he spoke, he noticed the other elderly crew members exchanging meaningful glances. "So they sent you to stop us," Walker said when Reed finished. It wasn't a question. "Admiral, if this ship enters Krellock territory, it could restart the war," Reed said. "We've had peace for 50 years. A harsh laugh came from a woman at one of the side stations. She had gray hair pulled back in a tight bun and a jagged scar running down one side of her face. "Peace," she said bitterly. "Is that what they call it now?" Walker held up a hand, and she fell silent. "Captain Reed, what do you know about the end of the Obsidian War? The real story, not the official version." Reed hesitated. "I know the Krellock attacked our colonies without warning. They used biological weapons that killed millions. We fought back and eventually forced them to sign a peace treaty." "And what about the Nemesis?" Walker asked. "What were you told happened to us?" "That you fought in the final battle and were destroyed, taking 3 Krellock dreadnoughts with you." Walker nodded slowly. "A convenient story. It made us martyrs instead of." He trailed off. "Come with me, Captain. There's something you need to see." Walker led Reed and his team to an adjacent room. It appeared to be a strategic planning center, with star maps covering the walls and a large table in the center. The Admiral pressed a button, and a holographic display appeared above the table. During the final battle, the Nemesis was critically damaged but not destroyed. Walker explained. "We were left adrift in an uncharted region. Most of our crew was dead. Our communications were gone. We had no way to call for help." The hologram showed the damaged battleship floating among debris. "The war ended while we were stranded," Walker continued. We eventually managed to get basic systems operational again. But by then, his voice hardened. By then, we'd learned the truth. The Krellock hadn't stopped their biological weapons program. They'd merely hidden it. The hologram changed to show images of secret facilities and strange laboratory equipment. For 50 years, we've been gathering evidence and preparing, Walker said. The peace treaty was a lie. The Krellock have continued developing weapons that could wipe out not just humans, but all non-Krellock species. They call it Project Bloodforge. Reed stared at the holographic evidence, a cold feeling growing in his stomach. If this is true, why not take it to Terran Command? Because powerful people made deals with the Krellock, the scared woman said, entering the room. They'd bury the evidence, just like they buried us. Walker nodded. Captain Reed, we're going to destroy the main Bloodforge research facility. That's why we're heading toward Krellock space, not for revenge, but to prevent genocide. Reed looked from Walker to the evidence and back again. Admiral, I need to verify this information before I can. Of course, Walker said. Examine our evidence. Talk to my crew. When you're satisfied, you can decide whether to join us or try to stop us. His eyes, though aged, burned with determination. But make no mistake, Captain Reed. One way or another, the Nemesis will complete its mission. Captain Reed spent hours reviewing the evidence Admiral Walker had collected. Files filled dozens of screens in the planning room. The more he saw, the colder he felt inside. These biological weapons, Reed said, pointing to images of laboratory samples. They're designed to target specific DNA patterns. The scared woman, who had introduced herself as Commander Linda Voss, nodded grimly. The Krellock can program them to attack any species. During the war, they targeted humans. Now they're developing versions that can target anyone who isn't Krellock. Reed looked at Powell and Thompson, who had been examining the evidence alongside him. Their faces showed the same troubled expressions. How did you get this information? Thompson asked, his security training making him cautious. These appear to be internal Krellock documents. Admiral Walker pressed a button, and a new image appeared, a map of Krellock space with several locations marked. We've been watching them for decades, Walker explained. After we repaired the ship enough to move, we used stealth technology to observe their activities. We've planted listening devices, intercepted transmissions, and occasionally, he paused, occasionally sent in small teams to gather physical evidence. With 12 people, Powell asked, looking impressed, how did you maintain a ship this size and run intelligence operations with so few crew members? Walker smiled slightly. Necessity breeds innovation, Engineer Powell. We've heavily automated the Nemesis. We've also incorporated technology from various sources we've encountered during our exile that explained the strange modifications Reed had noticed on the ship's hull. Admiral, Reed said, why didn't you return to Earth once you'd repaired the ship enough to travel? A heavy silence fell over the room. The elderly crew members exchanged glances. Walker walked slowly to a view screen and brought up an old video recording. It showed a Terran official shaking hands with a Krellock representative. This is General William Hayes signing the peace treaty, Walker said. He knew about the Bloodforge program. Our intelligence shows he received personal benefits in exchange for keeping it secret. Voss spat on the floor. They sold out humanity for profit and power. We tried to send messages home, Walker continued, but they were intercepted or ignored. Eventually, we realized we were on our own. So we made a blood oath. We would not return until we could deliver justice. Not revenge, Captain Reed. Justice. Reed studied the elderly crew members. They had spent 50 years of their lives pursuing this mission. Their determination was both admirable and frightening. Tell me about the facility you're planning to attack, Reed requested. Walker changed the display to show a large structure built into an asteroid. This is the main Bloodforge Research Center. It's where they perfect the delivery systems for their biological weapons. Our plan is to destroy it completely. And afterwards? Reed asked. Afterwards, we'll transmit all our evidence to every species in the galaxy, Walker replied. The Krellock won't be able to hide anymore. Reed walked around the table, thinking, won't that just start another war? Perhaps, Walker admitted, but better an open war than the silent genocide the Krellock are planning. Thompson leaned closer to Reed and whispered, Sir, if this is true, we need to inform Terran Command immediately. Reed nodded slightly. He turned back to Walker. Admiral, I'd like my communications officer to examine your evidence as well. He has expertise in validating intelligence. Walker hesitated, then nodded. Have him brought aboard. But understand, Captain, we're running out of time. According to our intelligence, the Bloodforge weapons will be ready for deployment within 2 weeks. Reed sent Thompson to bring Miller from the Swift. When they returned, Miller began a thorough analysis of the Bloodforge evidence. While they waited, Admiral Walker offered to show Reed more of the ship. They walked through corridors that gradually revealed the story of the Nemesis and its crew. We started with over 100 survivors, Walker explained as they passed a memorial wall covered with names and photos. Time has whittled us down to 12. How did you survive out here for so long? Reed asked. We found habitable planets for food, salvaged materials from derelict ships, traded with frontier colonies using false identities. Walker paused by a window that looked out into space. But what kept us alive was purpose, Captain. The knowledge that we were the only ones who could stop this threat. Reed studied the old admiral's face. There was no hint of madness or blind hatred, only determination and a deep sadness. The Krellock used bioweapons on Colony 7, Walker said quietly. My wife and daughter were there. The weapons didn't kill instantly. It took days. Painful days. His voice remained steady, but his eyes revealed old grief. Millions died like that. And the Krellock government claimed it was a rogue military commander, not official policy. But you found evidence that wasn't true, Reed guessed. Walker nodded. The Bloodforge program was approved at the highest levels. The attack on our colonies was just a test run. They returned to the planning room, where Miller was finishing his analysis. The communications officer looked up with a troubled expression. Sir, he said to Reed, I've verified the data. The encryption patterns match known Krellock military codes. The biological formulas have been examined by the ship's medical AI and confirmed as weapons targeted at non-Krellock DNA structures. He took a deep breath. It appears to be genuine. Reed felt the weight of this information settle on his shoulders. If the Nemesis crew was right, billions of lives were at risk. But if they were wrong, their actions could start another devastating war. Admiral Walker, Reed said, making a decision, I need to transmit this information to my superiors. Walker's expression hardened. So they can bury it. No, Captain. We've stayed hidden for 50 years. We won't risk our mission now. You misunderstand me, Reed replied. I'm not asking permission. I'm informing you of my intentions. My crew and I have seen your evidence. We believe it's genuine, but we have a duty to report what we found. Walker and Voss exchanged looks. And if your superiors order you to stop us? Walker asked. Reed met the Admiral's gaze steadily. Then I'll have to decide which orders to follow. The ones from my command, or the ones from my conscience. After a long moment, Walker nodded. Very well, Captain. You may use our communication array. It's more powerful than your ships. But understand this. In 3 days, we'll be in position to strike the Bloodforge facility, with or without your help. As Reed prepared to send his message to Terran Command, he knew he was standing at a crossroads that would determine not just his fate, but potentially the fate of all non-Krellock species in the galaxy. Captain Reed paced in the small meeting room aboard the Nemesis. 6 hours had passed since he sent his report to Terran Command. His message had included all the evidence about Project Bloodforge and the Nemesis crew's plan to destroy the research facility. The reply had finally arrived, and Reed didn't like it. "They want us to stand down," he told his team, gathered around the table. "Admiral Wilson says they'll handle the situation through diplomatic channels." Engineer Powell scoffed. "Diplomatic channels? After everything we've seen?" "They don't believe the evidence is real," Miller said quietly. "The message suggests Admiral Walker and his crew might be unstable after 50 years of isolation." Security Chief Thompson leaned forward. "What are our orders, sir?" Reed took a deep breath. "We're ordered to disable the Nemesis if possible and prevent any attack on Krellock territory." A heavy silence fell over the room. "And what are we going to do?" Davis finally asked. Reed looked at each member of his team. "That's what we need to decide. Together." Meanwhile, in the command center, Admiral Walker studied the tactical display with Commander Voss and the weapons officer, an elderly man named Robert Green. "The asteroid's defenses are stronger than we anticipated," Green reported. "They've added these gun placements in the last month." He pointed to several spots on the display. Walker nodded. "Can we still break through?" "Yes, but it will be riskier. We'll need to use the main cannon." Green's face showed concern. "That will drain our power reserves. We might not have enough energy to escape afterward." Voss's scared face hardened. "We always knew this might be a one-way mission." Walker looked at the 12 names illuminated on a side screen, the last survivors of his original crew. After 50 years of sacrifice, they were finally close to completing their mission. But at what cost? Reed called for a vote among his team. "We have 3 options. First, follow our orders and try to stop the Nemesis. Second, join the Nemesis crew in their attack. Or third, stay neutral and let events unfold without our interference." Powell spoke first. "I've examined their ship modifications. They've created weapons systems specifically designed to target the research facility while minimizing wider damage. They're not planning a revenge attack against Krellock civilians. They're performing a surgical strike against a genuine threat." She raised her hand. "I vote we help them." Thompson nodded in agreement. "The evidence is clear. If we wait for diplomatic solutions, billions could die. I vote we help them too." Miller looked troubled. "But attacking sovereign Krellock territory violates every treaty we have. It could start another war." He shook his head. "I vote we follow our orders." Davis fidgeted with a stylus. "This isn't our fight. We should report back that the ship was gone when we arrived." He raised his hand. "I vote we stay neutral." All eyes turned to Reed. They were tied. 2 for helping the Nemesis, 1 for stopping them, and 1 for staying neutral. His vote would decide their course of action. Reed thought about everything he had seen and learned. The evidence of the Bloodforge program was overwhelming, but so was the risk of starting another war. Before he could speak, an alarm sounded throughout the ship. "Captain to the bridge." Walker's voice came over the intercom. "We have company." Reed and his team rushed to the command center. On the main view screen, a Krellock patrol ship had appeared at the edge of the debris field. "They've spotted us," Voss reported. "They're scanning the Nemesis." Walker turned to Reed. "Your message to Terran Command may have been intercepted, or perhaps someone there alerted the Krellock." "What do we do?" Reed asked. "We have 2 choices," Walker said grimly. "Retreat and lose our chance to stop Bloodforge, or engage now and push forward with our mission." The elderly admiral looked tired but determined. "I won't ask you to join us, Captain Reed. You and your crew can take your ship and leave. Tell your command whatever you need to." Reed looked at the tactical display. The Krellock patrol ship was calling for reinforcements. Soon, they would be surrounded. Powell stepped forward. "Admiral Walker, I've been studying your ship's systems. The modifications you've made are incredible, but there's a flaw in the power distribution to the main cannon. If you fire it as planned, it could cause a cascade failure throughout the ship." Walker looked surprised. "Can you fix it?" "Yes," Powell said confidently. With proper adjustments, you could fire the main cannon and still have enough power to escape afterward. Walker exchanged looks with his crew. For 50 years, they had worked alone, trusting no one. Now, their mission's success might depend on these newcomers. "Time to decide, Captain Reed," Walker said. "Are you with us or against us?" Reed thought about his duty, his orders, and the evidence he had seen. He thought about the millions who had died in the Obsidian War and the billions who could die if Bloodforge was deployed. "I have conditions," Reed said finally. "First, we focus only on the research facility, no additional targets. Second, we transmit all evidence to every major government before we attack, so the truth can't be buried. And third," he met Walker's gaze, "we try to find a way that doesn't sacrifice your crew. You've given 50 years to this mission. You deserve to see what comes after." Walker studied Reed's face for a long moment, then nodded. "Agreed." Reed turned to his team. "Powell, help fix the power systems. Thompson, work with their security team on the assault plan. Miller, prepare a data package with all the evidence for broadcast. Davis, plot us an escape route." As his team moved to their assignments, Reed faced the view screen. The Krellock patrol ship was moving closer. "What about that?" he asked, pointing to the ship. Walker smiled grimly. "Watch." He pressed a button on his command chair. Suddenly, the Nemesis disappeared from all scans. The Krellock ship began sweeping the area in confusion. "Stealth technology," Walker explained. "Another modification we've made over the years. It won't last forever, but it gives us time to prepare." Reed nodded, impressed. "How long until we reach the Bloodforge facility?" 24 hours, Walker replied. "Just enough time to ready ourselves, and to see if you can truly make a difference, Captain Reed." As the massive battleship silently slipped away from the patrol ship, Reed felt the weight of his decision. He had chosen to disobey orders, to risk war, to gamble with countless lives, all based on evidence from a ship that shouldn't exist and a crew that was officially dead. But sometimes, Reed realized, doing the right thing meant making the hardest choice. And sometimes, legends returned for a reason. The Nemesis moved silently through space, its massive hull hidden by stealth technology. Inside, humans worked frantically to prepare for the mission. Engineer Powell and 3 of the original crew members had been working nonstop for 18 hours to fix the power distribution system. "There," Powell said, connecting the final circuit. "That should hold. You'll have enough power for both the main cannon and your engines afterward." The elderly engineer beside her, a man named Frank Wilson, shook his head in admiration. "We've been trying to solve that problem for years. How did you figure it out so quickly?" Powell smiled. "Sometimes fresh eyes see things differently. Besides, ship technology is my specialty." On the bridge, Captain Reed stood with Admiral Walker, studying the approach to the Bloodforge facility. The research center was built into a large asteroid surrounded by defense platforms. "Our stealth systems will get us within firing range," Walker explained. "But once we fire the main cannon, they'll know we're there." Reed nodded. "That's where we come in. The Swift can act as a distraction. We're small and fast enough to evade their weapons while you line up your shot." Miller approached them with a data tablet. "The evidence package is ready, sir. Once we broadcast this, every major government in the galaxy will know about Bloodforge." "Good," Reed said. "Send it the moment we enter the Krellock system. Give them no time to block the transmission." Security Chief Thompson joined them with a tactical display. "I've identified the key defensive positions. If we target these first," he pointed to several spots on the display, "we can create a gap in their security grid." Walker looked at Reed. "Your team has accomplished more in a day than we could have in a week." "You laid the groundwork," Reed replied. "We're just helping finish what you started." As they approached the Krellock system, everyone moved to their positions. The Swift detached from the Nemesis with Thompson and Davis aboard. Reed chose to stay on the battleship with Powell and Miller. "Broadcasting evidence now," Miller announced. The transmission went out across all frequencies, reaching ships and stations throughout the galaxy. The Nemesis dropped its stealth field as planned. Immediately, alarms sounded on Krellock defense platforms. "Swift is moving into position," Thompson reported over the comm. The small corvette darted between defense platforms, drawing their fire while the Nemesis prepared its main cannon. Weapon charged at 80%. Commander Voss reported from her station. 90%, 95%. Suddenly, the ship rocked with an impact. A previously hidden defense platform had fired on them. "Hull breach on Deck 14. Someone shouted. "Sealing emergency doors." Walker remained calm. "Status of the main cannon." "Charged and ready, Admiral," Voss replied. "Fire." A brilliant beam of energy erupted from the Nemesis, cutting through space toward the asteroid. When it hit, the entire research facility seemed to glow for a moment before a massive explosion tore through its center. "Direct hit," Voss called out. "The main laboratory is destroyed." Walker watched the destruction with solemn eyes. 50 years, he whispered. 50 years for this moment. But they had no time to celebrate. Krellock warships were appearing on the sensors, moving rapidly toward them. "Admiral," Reed said urgently, "we need to leave now." Walker nodded. "Set course for the jump point. Maximum speed." The Nemesis turned, its engines powering up thanks to Powell's repairs. The Swift rejoined them, docking quickly in the main bay. 4 Krellock destroyers closing fast, Miller reported. "They're charging weapons. Our evidence broadcast is being acknowledged," Voss added. "We're getting responses from the Terran government, the Arcturian Council, and 6 other major powers." Reed smiled grimly. "They can't hide it anymore. The truth is out." The first Krellock destroyer fired, hitting the Nemesis's rear shields. The battleship shuddered but kept moving. "Shields at 60%, Green reported from the weapons station. "We can take a few more hits, but not many." Walker turned to Reed. "You and your crew should get to the Swift. It's faster. You could outrun them." Reed shook his head. "We're in this together now, Admiral." Another hit rocked the ship. A console exploded near Walker, throwing the elderly Admiral to the floor. Reed rushed to his side, but it was too late. A piece of shrapnel had struck Walker's chest. "Admiral," Reed called, kneeling beside him. Walker grabbed Reed's hand, his grip surprisingly strong. "Finish it," he whispered. "Get them home." With those words, Admiral Thomas Walker died, 50 years after the world thought he already had. Reed stood slowly, his face set with determination. He turned to the crew. "Continue evasive maneuvers. Push the engines to maximum. We're getting this ship and its crew back to Earth." For the next tense hour, the Nemesis outran the Krellock pursuers, using the last of its power reserves to reach the jump point. When they finally made the jump to safety, a cheer went up from both the original crew and Reed's team. 3 weeks later, the Nemesis approached Earth for the first time in 50 years. The massive battleship, once thought to be just a legend, drew alongside the orbital defense station, where thousands of people had gathered to witness its return. On the bridge, Reed stood with the 11 remaining original crew members. Through the view screen, they could see the honor guard waiting to receive them. "What will happen now?" Voss asked quietly. "The evidence you gathered has changed everything," Reed replied. "The Krellock government is facing internal rebellion and external sanctions. Their leadership is being replaced. The Bloodforge program is being dismantled under international supervision." "And us?" asked Wilson, the elderly engineer. Reed smiled. "Your heroes. The people who sacrificed 50 years of their lives to save billions." As they prepared to dock, Reed thought about Admiral Walker and the legacy he had left behind. The Nemesis had not come for blind revenge, but for justice, to protect the innocent and expose the truth. The mythical battleship had been real after all, and its mission was finally complete. Outside, the crowds cheered as the 11 surviving crew members of the Nemesis stepped onto Earth soil for the first time in half a century. Their story would be told across the galaxy for generations to come. How a ship fought destroyed had returned from legend to save them all. In the ship's memorial hall, Reed placed Admiral Walker's insignia beside the photos of all those who had died during their long mission. The Nemesis would become a monument, a reminder that sometimes legends return when they're needed most. As Reed looked up at the massive ship one last time, he thought about the name that had struck fear into enemies and given hope to allies. Nemesis, the spirit of divine retribution against those who succumbed to hubris. It had been the perfect name for a ship that had come back from myth to deliver its silent Bloodforge revenge.